I never imagined that the sound of a single phone call could make my knees buckle. "Mrs. Grant, you need to come. Something's happened to your husband," the nurse said. For a heartbeat, I couldn't breathe. I clutched the counter, staring at the half-empty cup of coffee, still steaming beside the sink. The same brand he drank every morning before heading out. Only this time, he wouldn't be coming home the same man. But that chaos, the screaming, the hospital lights, the smell of antiseptic mixed with panic, that came later. To understand how everything fell apart, I have to start with that quiet sunny morning when nothing seemed wrong at all. Darius and I had been married for 16 years. The kind of marriage neighbors envied. He worked in finance downtown Atlanta. I taught part-time at a local elementary school. We were the couple who hosted barbecues, sent out Christmas cards with matching sweaters, and still kissed goodnight even when tired. Everyone said we were solid. I believed them. He was my safe place, my constant, the man who fixed the leaky faucet at 2 a.m. without complaint. I trusted him so completely that I never checked his phone, never questioned a late night at work, never counted the hours he spent on conference calls. Trust had been our default language. That Friday started like any other. He rose before dawn, humming as he shaved. I remember the scent of his cologne, cedar and spice, filling the bathroom as he buttoned his favorite gray suit. He kissed my forehead and said, "Big meeting today, baby. Don't wait up if it runs late." "Love you," I said. "Love you more," he replied with that crooked smile that always melted me. The garage door closed, the tires crunched over the gravel, and then silence settled in. Just another routine day, I thought. By noon, I had finished grading my students' essays and decided to tackle the garage. Our family SUV had been sitting unused for weeks. Darius preferred the company car, but I missed driving it. I told myself it'd be a sweet surprise to have it spotless for him. Maybe we'd take a weekend trip, like old times. Sunlight filtered through the narrow garage windows as I grabbed the cleaning caddy. Dust covered everything in a soft grey coat. I opened the driver's door, sneezing as a swirl of stale air escaped. The smell of old leather and forgotten memories filled my lungs. I vacuumed the seats, wiped the dashboard, even polished the steering wheel until it gleamed. When I reached for the glove compartment, it resisted for a second before popping open. Out spilled a tangle of expired insurance cards, an old sunglasses case, and a small, brand new box tucked neatly in the back. 5 condoms. Unopened, different brand. For a moment, my brain refused to register what my eyes saw. Then heat crawled up my neck, and my hands started trembling so violently, I almost dropped the box. We hadn't used protection in years, ever since trying for a second child. I whispered aloud, "No, this has to be." But logic wouldn't finish the sentence for me. The air turned heavy, the way it does before a summer storm. My heart thudded so loud it drowned the chirping birds outside. I sat there frozen, staring at the box like it might explode. Everything around me blurred. The hum of the fridge in the next room, the dust motes spinning in the light. My throat went dry. This tiny, stupid object had just cracked the foundation of 16 years. I slammed the glove box shut so hard, the echo startled me. "It can't be," I murmured, pacing backward until my back hit the wall. The concrete felt cold, even through my t-shirt. Minutes passed, maybe hours. I couldn't tell. My mind tried every excuse. Maybe they were from before we got serious. Maybe someone else borrowed the car. Maybe No, that didn't make sense. He was too careful, too precise. Too Darius to let something like that just sit there. Tears threatened, but none came. I just stood in silence, my whole body numb, like grief hadn't yet decided where to settle. That night, he came home humming the same tune from that morning. I watched him from the kitchen doorway as he poured himself a whiskey, loosened his tie, and joked about his boss. Everything looked so normal that it made me nauseous. I couldn't confront him. Not yet. I needed certainty before I shattered both our lives. So I smiled, nodded, laughed in all the right places, even kissed him goodnight. But my mind was elsewhere, spinning, replaying that discovery over and over. At 2 a.m., while he snored beside me, I lay wide-eyed staring at the ceiling fan blades slicing through the dark. "Who are you, really?" I whispered. He stirred but didn't wake. That was the night something inside me changed. I wasn't just a wife anymore. I was a quiet detective in my own home. The next morning, I told him I had errands. He kissed me goodbye, thinking nothing of it. I drove straight to a local spice shop in Decatur, the kind that sells everything from smoked paprika to ghost peppers. The elderly shopkeeper smiled and asked what I was cooking. "Something unforgettable," I said. I bought a bag of dried Carolina Reapers, the hottest chili they had, and headed home. The whole drive, my hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I wasn't sure if what I planned was insane or brilliant. Maybe both. Inside the kitchen, I crushed the peppers in a bowl, the red powder blooming like fire. The smell made my eyes water instantly. Each breath burned, but I welcomed it. It felt like justice taking form. I slipped on a pair of latex gloves from under the sink, the same gloves I used for bleaching bathroom tiles, and stared at that small box again. "This is on you, Darius," I whispered. One by one, I coated each condom with the fine chili dust, sealing them back exactly as before. The act was methodical, almost sacred. Every movement deliberate, precise. No shaking hands now. Just focus, and a strange, icy calm. When I finished, I returned the box to its hiding spot in the glove compartment, aligning it perfectly with the papers, as if it had never been touched. Then I closed the door, wiped my fingerprints, and leaned against the SUV with a slow exhale. It was done. No yelling, no confrontation, just a silent promise that if he betrayed me, he'd feel the burn in more ways than one. That evening, I cooked his favorite dinner: roast chicken, mashed potatoes, a little gravy. He walked in late again, muttering something about a project deadline. I studied his face. The nervous twitch at the corner of his mouth, the way he avoided my eyes when he set his briefcase down. "You look tired," I said softly. "Yeah, long day." I reached for his hand. "Maybe you should rest." He smiled faintly, unaware of the storm brewing behind my calm. We ate in near silence. He scrolled his phone between bites. Every now and then, I caught a ghost of guilt flicker across his expression, but he quickly masked it with small talk about the kids or office gossip. When he finally went to bed, I stayed up staring at the flickering candle on the counter. It was strange. Revenge didn't make me feel powerful or cruel. It made me feel alive again, as if I'd clawed back control of something he'd stolen. Over the next few days, his lies became bolder. Late meeting again. Traffic was terrible. My phone died. I just nodded. "Of course, honey." Each excuse was another thread tightening around his neck, and he didn't even notice. The calm I projected seemed to reassure him. He started leaving his phone on silent, screen face down, as if that could hide the truth. Then came Thursday night. He stepped out of the shower, smelling of that same unfamiliar cologne. He took extra time styling his hair, checked his reflection twice, and sprayed a hint of something new on his wrists. I sat on the bed pretending to read. "Big client dinner," I asked casually. He hesitated. "Yeah, might run late." I smiled. "Don't worry, I'll keep dinner warm." He kissed my cheek. "You're the best, Liz." "I know," I replied. And this time I meant it differently. The moment the garage door closed behind him, I turned off the light and whispered to the dark, "Go ahead, Darius. Let's see how loyal you really are." I followed him the next afternoon. Not the same night. No, I wanted him comfortable, unsuspecting. But Friday, when he said he was grabbing lunch with a coworker, I tailed him. My heart pounded like a drumline as I kept a safe distance, sunglasses shielding my eyes. He drove across town, not to any restaurant I recognized, but to a small hotel off the interstate, the Maplewood Inn. My stomach dropped. I parked behind a gas station and watched him step out. A woman emerged from another car, a tall blonde with a bright red coat. She laughed as she touched his arm, and he didn't pull away. My chest tightened until breathing hurt. Then she turned, and recognition hit me like a punch. Tiffany Shaw, his coworker. The same woman who'd sat at our dining table last Thanksgiving, smiling as she complimented my cooking. I bit my lips so hard I tasted blood. They disappeared inside together. I stayed there for what felt like hours. Engine off, tears pooling silently. When they finally re-emerged, both disheveled and glowing with the smugness of sin, I knew my marriage was over. But I also knew the seeds of my revenge were already planted. I didn't honk. I didn't follow. I just watched as they laughed their way into destruction. That night, he came home humming again, pretending everything was fine. He didn't notice my quiet stare, didn't sense that his world was about to ignite. I looked at him across the dinner table, my voice steady. "You know," I said, "sometimes the smallest things burn the longest." He blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" I smiled. "Oh, nothing. Just talking about spices." He laughed awkwardly, shaking his head, and returned to his meal. Inside, I whispered to myself, "Tomorrow, Darius. Tomorrow you'll learn what betrayal tastes like." The night in the ER ended with prescriptions and bandages, and a nurse advising both of them to rest and refrain from romantic activity for a time. Tiffany called me later, voice small and hollow, apologizing in a way that suggested she had been through a private crucible. Darius begged me not to leave him. He promised to go to therapy. He promised to get help. He promised he could be different. He sounded like a man bargaining with the devil of his own conscience. I went home with a prescription bottle in my bag for myself, an antihistamine for stress, and fell into bed exhausted. When I closed my eyes, the nurse's voice echoed again, and I realized that every action has a cost. I had wanted him to hurt in the only way I could imagine matching betrayal. He did. The world he built started cracking under the pressure of whispered gossip, manager memos, and courtroom paperwork. The kids shuffled through the days like little ships on a stormed sea. And me, standing at the center of the storm, felt neither ruthless nor innocent. I felt the stinging truth that some choices, once made, continue to unravel long after the hands that made them drop. That's where part 2 leaves us. With the hospital lights still glaring, and Darius looking tiny and broken on the bed, whispering apologies into the sterile air. There was an after, and the after would be worse in ways I could not yet imagine. The whispers had not stopped. They had only begun. And there was another secret I hadn't told anyone yet, something I'd discovered in a late-night search through old emails that made my skin crawl. It started when I noticed Darius locking his office door at home. He had always been territorial about his workspace, but now he was downright paranoid. He carried his laptop everywhere, even to the bathroom. He changed his passwords, started sleeping with his phone under his pillow. One night, when he passed out on the couch, I finally looked. The messages were old, buried deep in a forgotten folder, but they were there, between him and someone named Amanda. At first I thought it was an old flame, but when I clicked through the thread, my heart started to race. Amanda wasn't an old girlfriend. She was someone he'd worked with years ago at his first job, a job he'd told me he'd left on good terms. The messages told another story. There were references to that night, to her husband finding out, to keeping quiet because of the payout. My mouth went dry. I scrolled faster. Amanda wrote, "You said this would go away. It hasn't. He's threatening to go public." And Darius had replied, "Then we do what we have to. I can't lose everything I've built." The date on the message was 2 years before he met me. But that didn't matter. Whatever had happened, he'd buried it, and it was surfacing again, right in the middle of our own collapse. The next morning, I asked him about it. He froze, coffee mug halfway to his mouth. "Where did you hear that name?" "I didn't hear it," I said. "I saw it. In your emails." His jaw tightened. "You had no right." "I had every right," I snapped. "You've been lying to me for years." He slammed the mug down so hard, coffee splashed across the counter. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Lena, that's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is." But he didn't. He just grabbed his jacket and stormed out. That night, he didn't come home. By morning, rumors were already swirling again. The affair at work had become office folklore. Someone leaked photos of him and Tiffany arguing in the parking lot. And then, an anonymous email landed in my inbox. "He's done this before. You should ask him about Amanda." I sat staring at the screen, heart thudding, realizing someone else knew. Someone who wanted me to know. I didn't reply, but I did start digging. Amanda's name led me down a rabbit hole. I found an old local news article about a workplace incident involving 2 employees from Darius's former firm. The article mentioned a harassment claim. No charges filed, but the woman, Amanda, had resigned suddenly and moved out of state. I scrolled to the end of the article. The firm had paid a confidential settlement, and the photo attached to the story. Darius was standing in the background. I sat there, numb, staring at the man I thought I knew, his face blurred by time and distance, but still unmistakable. Later that night, he came home. His eyes were bloodshot, his breath sharp with whiskey. He stood in the doorway, looking at me like a stranger. "You shouldn't have gone digging," he said. I held up my phone. "Who is Amanda?" He flinched. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is." "She was a mistake a long time ago. I thought it was over." "Was it?" He didn't answer. I realized then that silence was an answer too. The next morning, a police cruiser parked outside our house. A detective knocked on the door, asking for Darius. He wasn't home. The detective left a card. When Darius returned and saw it, he went pale. "They just want to talk," he muttered, tucking the card into his pocket. "About what?" "Nothing that concerns you." He turned and walked out again, leaving the door open behind him. I stood there, wind curling through the doorway, realizing that the life I'd been fighting to keep might already be gone. Later that week, Tiffany showed up at my door again, this time sober, makeup smeared, eyes red. She said she'd been fired. "They're saying I leaked photos," she said. "I didn't, I swear." I stared at her, searching her face for the girl who'd helped break my family. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I think someone's trying to ruin him. And me. It's like someone's setting us up." I laughed bitterly. "Maybe it's karma." She shook her head. "No, you don't get it. I got an email too. From Amanda." I froze. "What did it say?" "She said she's coming back." The name hung in the air like smoke. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The world outside was quiet, the kind of quiet that comes before a storm. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound in the house felt amplified. The creak of the floorboards, the hum of the fridge, the distant bark of a dog. Around midnight, I checked my email again. A new message. No sender listed, just a single line of text. "You think this is over? It's just beginning." My fingers trembled over the keyboard. I didn't reply. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky, and in that moment, I knew whatever had started years ago with Amanda wasn't done with any of us yet.
The morning after that email, I woke up before dawn. The sky outside was still gray, the kind of light that doesn't belong to any hour. I brewed coffee just to have something to do with my hands. The kids were still asleep, and the house was too quiet. My phone lay on the counter, the message from that unknown address staring back at me. "You think this is over? It's just beginning. I didn't know what it was anymore. The affair, the secrets, the mess Darius had built long before I came into the picture. All I knew was that my life had turned into a maze with no clear exit. By 8 a.m., there was a knock on the door. I half expected Darius. Instead, it was the detective who had left his card earlier that week. Detective Mill's gray hair, weathered face, and the kind of calm you only get from seeing too many people's lives fall apart. "Mrs. Grant," he said politely, flashing his badge. "May I come in?" I hesitated but opened the door. "He's not here." "I know," he said, stepping inside. "I actually came to speak with you." He sat at the kitchen table like he'd done it 100 times before. "I understand things have been tense lately. That's one word for it." He nodded. "I'll be direct. We've reopened an old case involving your husband's former employer, a woman named Amanda Price." My breath caught. "Reopened?" "She filed a report last week. Claims she's been receiving threats. Says she believes your husband is involved." I laughed before I could stop myself. "Darius, he's barely keeping his own life together." Mills studied me. "Maybe, but she provided emails old ones syndicating there was a cover-up, a payout that wasn't supposed to happen." I stayed quiet. "Look," he said, lowering his voice, "I'm not here to make trouble for you, but if you know where your husband keeps any records from that time, old drives, files, anything, it'd be best to hand them over now, before this gets ugly." He left me with his card and a warning. Secrets have a way of bleeding into daylight. When he was gone, I stood by the window watching his car disappear down the street. My hands were shaking. I didn't know what was real anymore. That afternoon, I called Darius. He didn't answer. I left a message, calm, measured, the kind of voice you use when you're trying not to scream. "Darius," I said, "the police came by. They're reopening something about Amanda. Call me." He didn't call back. That night, Tiffany showed up again. She looked worse than before. Hollow eyes, trembling hands, smelling faintly of gin and regret. "Can I come in?" she whispered. I should have said no, but I didn't. She sat on the couch, clutching her purse like it was armor. "He's gone off the rails," she said. "He called me last night, drunk, angry, said if Amanda tries to drag his name again, he'll take everyone down with him." "Everyone?" I asked. She nodded. "You, me, her. He said he's done playing nice." A chill crawled up my spine. "What does that mean?" "I don't know," Tiffany said. "But he's not the same anymore." I believed her. Hours later, when I finally got the kids to bed, I sat alone in the dark. The house felt wrong, too aware. Every creak made me look over my shoulder. Then, around midnight, headlights flashed across the living room wall. I peeked through the curtain. Darius's car. He stumbled out, swaying something in his hand, a folder. When I opened the door, the smell of alcohol hit me like a wave. "You talked to Mills," he said flatly. "He came here," I said. "I didn't tell him anything." "You shouldn't have let him in." "Darius, what's in that folder?" He ignored the question and slammed it down on the table. "You want to know everything? There, go ahead." Inside were papers, contracts, NDAs, settlement documents, all signed, all dated from before we were married. And in the middle, a copy of an email from Amanda. Subject line, "You can't bury this forever." "I thought it was handled," he muttered. "I paid, I fixed it, but she came back." "Handled," I said, my voice shaking. "You ruined her life, Darius. And now she's coming for you." He looked up, eyes glassy. "No, she's coming for all of us." Then he walked out again, leaving the door wide open. I didn't see him for 2 days. When he finally called, his voice was low, panicked. "Lena, they took my laptop. The police, they came to my office. Said there's evidence of blackmail." "Is there?" "Silence, Darius." He sighed. "It's complicated. Amanda wanted money again. Said if I didn't pay, she'd release everything. The videos, the emails. I didn't have the money this time." "You mean you did pay her before?" He didn't answer. That night, Tiffany texted again. "He's spiraling. Please, talk to him before he does something stupid." But I couldn't. I was done saving him from his own mess. By the weekend, the story had hit local news. Former firm executive tied to harassment scandal reopens old wounds. Darius's photo was plastered across every site. My phone buzzed with messages from friends, coworkers, even my mother. I turned off the phone, closed the blinds, and tried to keep the kids distracted with movies and board games. But even they knew something was wrong. Then, on Sunday afternoon, a car pulled into the driveway. A woman stepped out, red hair tied back, dark sunglasses. A sharp black coat, despite the heat. Amanda, she stood there on the porch, like a ghost, returned from exile. Can I help you? I asked when I opened the door. You don't know me, she said calmly, but you've heard about me. My throat tightened. You're Amanda. She nodded. And I think we need to talk. I didn't want to let her in, but I did. She sat at the same kitchen table where Darius had made all his promises. Her eyes were tired, her voice steady. I didn't come to cause more pain, but I need you to understand what he did. She slid a flash drive across the table. What's this? Proof, she said. Emails, recordings, the night everything happened. You'll see he wasn't the victim he claimed to be. I stared at the drive. Why now? Because someone's been watching me, Amanda said quietly, and I think it's him or someone working for him. You're saying Darius? I'm saying, she cut in, he's desperate, and desperate men do stupid things. Before I could respond, headlights flashed outside again. Amanda froze. Is that him? I looked out the window. Darius's car. He burst through the door. Face red, eyes wild. What the hell is this? Amanda stood. You can't intimidate me anymore, Darius. Intimidate? He laughed bitterly. You're the one who started this. You wanted more money. I wanted you to tell the truth. Their voices clashed, echoing off the walls. The kids woke upstairs, crying. Get out, I yelled. Both of you. Neither moved. Then Darius grabbed the flash drive off the table. You don't get to control me anymore, he snarled. Amanda lunged for it. They struggled, papers flying, coffee spilling, glass shattering on the floor. I shouted for them to stop, but it was chaos. The drive slipped from Darius's hand, skidding under the refrigerator. Amanda backed away, trembling. You're done, Darius. You hear me? Done. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Darius stood there, breathing hard, sweat glistening on his forehead. She's lying, Lena. You can't believe her. But I already knew belief wasn't the point. Truth was, and truth didn't care who believed it. He left again that night. The next morning, I found the flash drive where it had fallen. I plugged it in. Inside were folders labeled with dates, old emails, audio files, even scanned copies of letters. I clicked one at random. Darius's voice filled the speakers. You said you wouldn't tell anyone, Amanda. You promised. Amanda's voice trembled. You said you'd stop. You didn't. The file ended abruptly. I sat there frozen, realizing that my husband wasn't just a liar. He was dangerous. By the time I looked up, the sun had risen. The kids were still asleep. The world outside was calm again, but it felt like the calm before something worse. When Darius finally came home that night, his tone had changed. Soft, sweet, almost rehearsed. I love you, Lena, he said quietly. We can fix this. We can move past it. But his eyes told a different story, one of desperation and fear. And as I stared back at him, I realized something chilling. The man standing in front of me wasn't trying to fix things. He was trying to survive them, and whatever came next, none of us were ready. Darius didn't come home the next day, or the day after that. His phone went straight to voicemail. I told the kids he was on a business trip, but they were old enough to know when I was lying. By the third night, a black sedan parked across the street. Same car, same spot, 2 nights in a row. I watched from behind the curtain. The driver never got out then. Around midnight, I heard a soft knock. When I opened the door, a woman stood there, Amanda again. Her hair was damp from the rain, and her eyes darted over my shoulder like she was being followed. Can I come in? She asked. I hesitated, then stepped aside. She was shaking. He's not okay, Lena. You need to get the kids somewhere safe. Where is he? She swallowed. He came to my place last night. He was drunk. Said everything's falling apart. Said if he can't fix it, he'll burn it all down. My stomach twisted. You think he'd hurt you? She looked at me, dead serious. I think he'll hurt whoever he thinks ruined his life. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Darius. You shouldn't have let her in. I turned to Amanda, heart pounding. He knows you're here. The living room lamp flickered, then headlights again, this time pulling fast into the driveway. Amanda's breath hitched. Oh God. I grabbed the kids' hands, ushered them upstairs. Stay in your rooms. Lock the door. By the time I came back down, Darius was pounding on the front door. Lena, open it. Amanda shook her head. Don't. But he was already shouting. You think you can hide from me in my own house? The sound of his fist hitting the wood echoed through the hall. I called 911 with trembling hands. My husband's here. He's not supposed to be. He's drunk. Please, hurry. Blue and red lights cut through the night. Minutes later, Darius stumbled back, hands raised, shouting something about betrayal and lies. The officers pinned him against the car while Amanda sobbed in the doorway. They took him away in cuffs. The kids didn't sleep that night. Neither did I. 2 days later, the police called me to pick up his belongings, wallet, keys, the same folder he'd slammed on our table weeks ago. I almost didn't go, but curiosity and guilt are powerful things. At the station, Detective Mills handed me a sealed envelope. "For you," he said. He insisted. Inside was a handwritten note. "They'll twist it all. Lena, don't believe everything you see." That same day, Amanda disappeared. She stopped answering calls. Her apartment was empty. No forwarding address. No trace. The detective called it a personal choice to leave town. I called it something else. By the end of the week, gossip had turned into headlines. Scandal deepens in former executive's case. My neighbors stopped waving. The kids came home crying from school. And every night, that same black sedan parked across the street. One evening, I'd had enough. I walked straight out to it, barefoot, rain soaking my robe. The window rolled down. "Detective Mills. Still watching me?" I asked bitterly. He sighed. "Protecting you. We think someone's trying to tie up loose ends." "Loose ends." He looked at me, eyes weary. "Amanda's car was found near the river." The world tilted. "Is she?" "We don't know yet." I staggered back to the house, heart pounding so hard it hurt. That night I couldn't sleep. Every sound in the house felt magnified, the hum of the fridge, the drip from the faucet, the wind against the siding. I went to the bedroom, opened the closet, and stared at the safe. Something told me there was more inside. I entered the code again. The light turned green. Papers, receipts, and tucked beneath them, a memory card wrapped in a receipt from a jewelry store. I slid it into my laptop. Videos, dozens of them, dates going back years, some labeled with women's names, some just numbers. I clicked one. It was Darius meeting women in hotel rooms, laughing, whispering. But one file froze my blood. Amanda again. She was crying, and he was shouting. The video cut before anything else happened. I slammed the laptop shut and ran to the bathroom, throwing up until my throat burned. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see the same woman anymore. The next morning, I called the detective. "You need to come get this." He arrived within the hour, gloves on, evidence bag ready. "You did the right thing," he said. But that night, the black sedan was gone. In its place, a single envelope taped to my front door. Inside, a photo of my kids walking home from school, and beneath it, a note in Darius's handwriting. "If you love them, don't say a word." I collapsed onto the floor, shaking. Every instinct screamed to run. But where? The police already had their hands tied. The world outside our home had turned into something feral, and watching days passed. Weeks. Darius got out on bail. The charges were under review. Amanda was still missing. Then the phone rang late one night. His number. "Lena," he said softly, almost tenderly. "I didn't hurt her." "Where is she?" "Gone," he said. "But not because of me. You have to believe me." "How can I whispered. He was silent for a long time. "I deserve that." "No," I said quietly. "You deserve to face yourself." I hung up before he could reply. The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee. The same brand he used to drink, steam curling into the air like a ghost. My phone buzzed again, an unknown number. "He's not telling you everything." I froze. Then another message. "Check the safe." The safe. The one in our bedroom closet, his private space I'd never dared to open. My hands shook as I entered the code I'd guessed countless times before. It clicked open on the first try. Inside, beneath stacks of papers, was a small velvet pouch. I opened it. A diamond bracelet. And a flash drive. I plugged the drive into my laptop, and the first file loaded. A video. Darius, years younger, sitting across from a woman with auburn hair. "Amanda." She was crying. He said, "You have to calm down, Amanda. I'll fix it." Her voice trembled. "You can't fix what you started." The video cut off abruptly. I stared at the frozen screen, realizing whoever sent that text had access to our deepest sins. And the final file's title made my blood run cold. "If I disappear, show this to the police." The flash drive's final file sat on my laptop screen, daring me to click. The title, "If I disappear, show this to the police," blinked back like a heartbeat in the dark. I stared at it for a long time, feeling the weight of every decision that had brought me here. The kids were asleep upstairs. The house hummed quietly. That late-night silence where even the walls seemed to listen. Outside, rain drummed on the roof, steady and relentless. I double-clicked the file. At first, there was only static. Then Amanda appeared, sitting in what looked like a motel room. Her face was pale, eyes swollen from crying. "Darius," she began, voice trembling. "If you're watching this, you already know I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I can't live like this waiting for the next lie, the next cover-up. I kept the receipts, the photos, the proof. I gave copies to someone I trust. If anything happens to me, it's on you." She hesitated, glancing off camera. "You said you'd fix everything. But how do you fix a soul?" Then the video cut to black. My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. I called Detective Mills immediately, my voice shaking. "There's another video. You need to see this." He promised to send a unit in the morning, but morning never came the way it should have. At dawn, the phone rang again. "Not the Detective Darius Lena," he said, his voice hoarse. "Don't call the police." "Why shouldn't I?" I snapped. "You lied about everything. Amanda's missing, and I just watched her say your name. It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is." He hesitated, breathing ragged. "I tried to protect her. I tried to protect you, but someone else got involved, someone dangerous." "Who?" He lowered his voice. "The same people she threatened to expose. The flash drive isn't just about me, it's about them. And now they're watching you too." Before I could answer, the line went dead. I stood frozen, the dial tone echoing in my ear like a scream. 10 minutes later, I heard tires on gravel. A black SUV, not the sedan, pulled up outside. 2 men in suits stepped out, umbrellas up, despite the light drizzle. I peeked through the blinds. They weren't police-y, no badges, no uniforms. The taller one looked directly at the window, like he knew I was there. I grabbed the flash drive, shoved it into my pocket, and woke the kids. "We're leaving," I whispered. "Mom, what's wrong?" my son asked, bleary-eyed. "Just go to the car, sweetheart. Now." We slipped out the back door, my heart hammering so loud it drowned out the rain. I drove through the neighborhood with headlights off until we hit the main road. My phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. "You can't hide forever." I turned it off by noon. We were checked into a small roadside motel, 3 towns over. The air smelled of bleach and old carpet. I locked the door, pulled the curtains, and finally let the tears fall. How had it come to this? One discovery in a glove compartment had unraveled an entire life. I set the flash drive on the nightstand and stared at it like it might explode. My daughter crawled into my lap. "Mom, are we in trouble?" I brushed her hair back. "No, baby, Mommy's just fixing something that got very broken." But the truth was, I didn't know if I could fix anything anymore. That evening, there was a knock on the door. 3 short taps. I froze. "Housekeeping," a woman's voice called. I hadn't requested any service. I motioned for the kids to stay quiet, then peered through the peephole. A woman in a maid's uniform stood outside, holding a towel cart. But her eyes, they didn't belong to a housekeeper. They were sharp, scanning the hallway. "Wrong room," I called out. She smiled faintly. "No, Mrs. Grant, it's the right one." My blood ran cold. I grabbed the flash drive, stuffed it in my jeans pocket, and opened the bathroom window. The kids followed silently, fear making them obedient. We climbed out and ran barefoot through the rain across the parking lot to a diner lit by flickering neon. Inside, I used the payphone to call Detective Mills again. No answer. When I turned around, the woman from the motel stood across the street, watching. Then she lifted her phone, snapped a photo, and vanished into the night. We moved again the next day. Another motel, another false name. I felt like a fugitive in my own life. On the 3rd morning, I woke to find a plain white envelope slipped under the door. Inside was a note, handwritten. "We can help you. Meet us tonight. Come alone. Bring the drive." There was no signature, just an address scrawled at the bottom. I should have gone to the police. I should have done 1,000 things differently. But exhaustion does strange things to reason. That night, after tucking the kids into bed, I drove to the address, an abandoned warehouse on the edge of town. My hands trembled as I gripped the steering wheel. The inside smelled of oil and rust. A single light flickered overhead. Then a figure stepped out of the shadows. "Lena," he said softly. "Darius," he looked wrecked, eyes sunken, beard rough, suit wrinkled like he'd been sleeping in it for days. "What are you doing here?" I demanded. "I told you not to call the police," he said. "They can't protect you." "You're insane," I hissed. "You ruined everything. Amanda's dead or missing, and now strangers are following me." He took a step closer. "Because you still have something they want. The drive." He nodded. "It's evidence. Not just about me. About the company, the money laundering, the people behind it. Amanda wasn't the only one who knew." I stared at him. You're saying this is bigger than your affair? He ran a hand through his hair. They killed her, Lena. I tried to warn her, but she wouldn't listen. And now they think you have the backups. Then we'll go to the police together. They won't believe us. They're part of it. He looked toward the doorway nervously. We don't have much time. Before I could respond, a car engine roared outside. Headlights flared through the broken windows. Darius grabbed my arm. Give me the drive. I'll handle it. I yanked back. You expect me to trust you after everything? Please, he whispered. If they find it on you, they won't stop. The door burst open. 2 men in black stormed in, flashlights cutting through the darkness. Run, Darius shouted. He shoved me toward the back exit, bullets shattering glass as we sprinted through the rain. We ducked behind a dumpster, gasping for breath. This is insane, I whispered. We're being hunted because you couldn't keep your lies straight. He turned to me, eyes desperate. You think this started with me? You think the condoms? The affairs that was just lust? No, Lena, it was leverage. They made me do things, sign things. Amanda tried to blow the whistle. Now she's gone, and we're next. Before I could reply, tires screeched nearby. The sound of footsteps echoed. Darius pressed the flash drive into my hand. Keep it safe. If I don't make it, you show them everything. What about you? He gave me a sad smile. Maybe this is how I make it right. Then he ran. I screamed after him, but he disappeared into the storm. Gunfire cracked in the distance. Minutes later, silence. I stumbled to the car, drenched, shaking, heart racing. I drove without knowing. Where's just away? Away from the town, the pain, the ghosts. When dawn broke, I pulled over by a lake. Hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles ached. I took out the flash drive, holding it up to the rising sun. It glinted, a tiny, deadly truth that had destroyed everything. I could hand it to the police. I could destroy it. Either way, someone would come for me. I whispered to the water. What now? Then my phone buzzed. A text from Darius. Just one line. They know where you are. I looked up and saw the black SUV parked at the top of the hill. The engine idled. A door opened, and that's where everything went silent.